Imagine you're an executive at Apple. You have this essentially infinite content budget.
Right.
And your biggest, most attention-grabbing swings historically have been these sprawling, I don't know, $200 million sci-fi universes.
Oh, yeah. Massive budgets.
Massive. So what is your most strategic, high-stakes move for the next fiscal year? You basically lock Ben Stiller and Benicio Del Toro in a single, drab, minimum security prison cell.
Yeah.
Like, no CGI.
Yeah.
No global locations. Just two guys and a terrifying amount of corporate anxiety.
It's so funny because it seems completely counterintuitive on the surface, right? Like moving from these galaxy-spanning epics to just, well, a concrete box.
Exactly.
But, when you actually look at the underlying mechanics of subscriber retention, it is arguably the most lethal weapon they can deploy against their competitors right now.
Absolutely. Well, welcome everyone to the Greenlight Report podcast. I am so thrilled you are here because today's mission takes us straight into the belly of the modern Hollywood machine.
Oh, we are getting into it today.
We really are. We are tearing into a massive stack of sources. So we're talking industry trades like Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, official Apple press releases.
Yeah, always interesting to parse.
Always. And of course, incredibly cynical Reddit threads from, television and RTV+.
The best place for cynical takes.
Right. And we also have this highly detailed strategic media analysis document. So we are synthesizing all of this to understand one specific upcoming Apple TV Plus comedy, which is called Protective Custody.
Yeah, Protective Custody.
And we're going to examine how this single show perfectly illustrates the current streaming economy, the sheer brilliance of setting a high-stakes comedy in a prison, and yes, we are absolutely going to get to the hilarious media mix-up involving a telepathic gorilla.
I am so excited for the gorilla part.
It's so good.
But, just to start, the architecture of this project is really a masterclass in modern media strategy.
Right.
We are essentially witnessing a tech giant execute a highly calculated portfolio maneuver, but they're masquerading it as a television show.
Wow, yeah.
And they're doing it by hijacking the traditional sitcom model.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So let's crack open the premise first, because I love a behind-the-scenes Hollywood story that actually explains why a show exists in the first place.
Oh, for sure.
So the core concept, at least based on the initial Apple press release, it centers on this disgraced financier played by Ben Stiller.
Right.
And he is accused of massive financial fraud, typical billionaire stuff, and he gets thrown into protective custody while awaiting trial.
Yeah, so he's not just in prison.
Exactly. He's not in the general population.
Sure.
He's in the specific ward where they put the informants, the disgraced cops, and, the white-collar criminals who wouldn't last 30 seconds in the main yard.
Right, the people who need to be hidden away.
Yeah.
And the narrative engine relies entirely on the stripping away of artificial power, which I find fascinating.
Totally.
Because Stiller's character, he basically has to navigate these complex yard politics.
Yeah.
And he's attempting to salvage his ruined reputation from a bank of payphones in a common room.
Which is such a funny image.
It really is. And he has to confront the actual consequences of his actions for the first time in his life.
Yeah, he can't just buy his way out.
Exactly. The environment forces a complete reset of his entire behavioral toolkit.
It sounds to me like a really anxiety-driven version of Orange is the New Black colliding with Succession.
Oh, that is a perfect way to describe it.
Right. Like you've got this guy who is used to just crushing people in boardrooms, and suddenly he's thrust into an ecosystem where his immense wealth and his Ivy League degree mean absolutely nothing.
Or worse, they actively paint a target on his back.
Right. Yeah, they make him the prime mark.
And the brilliance of that setup, it hinges entirely on the casting. Because to make that anxiety palpable, rather than just kind of pathetic, you need an actor who vibrates at a very specific frequency of neurosis.
And there is literally nobody better for that than Ben Stiller.
No one. I mean, he has spent 3 decades perfecting the art of the man, desperately trying to maintain control as his world just completely falls apart.
Oh, absolutely. Think of Meet the Parents or Dodgeball, just that tightly wound energy.
Yes.
And to anchor that, Apple brought in Benicio Del Toro as the co-lead, which is wild because our sources note this actually marks the very first leading comedy series role for both of these actors.
Which sounds completely fake when you first hear it.
It does. Had to double check that. I mean, it sounds wild for Ben Stiller especially, but technically the Ben Stiller show back in the 90s was sketch comedy.
All right.
It wasn't a modern narrative sitcom. So seeing these two in a half-hour format is completely uncharted territory.
And their history adds a really crucial layer of gravity to the project. Because they previously collaborated on that Showtime Limited series, Escape at Dannemora.
Oh man, Dannemora was so good.
But so heavy.
So heavy. A relentlessly dark, gritty, prestige prison drama. Stiller directed it, Del Toro starred in it, and the tone was just suffocatingly tense.
Yeah, it was not a fun hang. No, not at all. So pivoting from that incredibly heavy dynamic to, well, a workplace satire, it requires a fascinating recalibration of their working relationship.
It really does. I was actually reading the AV Club review that was included in our research stack.
Yeah?
And they brought up Del Toro's performance in Dannemora.
Oh, what did they say?
They specifically highlighted this weirdly brilliant, deeply unsettling moment where Del Toro's character literally belches the line, "Don't tell anybody," at Patricia Arquette.
Oh, wow. Yes, I remember that scene.
It was so raw and grotesque.
Yeah.
And reading that, it just makes me wonder, like, how does a brooding Oscar-winning dramatic actor, and the guy from Traffic and Sicario, how does he pivot to a Mike Judge comedy?
Well, I mean, the boundaries between prestige drama and dark comedy are practically non-existent at this point.
That's true.
Del Toro doesn't actually need to learn how to tell a joke, right? His sheer immovable gravitas is the punchline.
Right. He doesn't need to do a pratfall.
Exactly. The comedic friction is generated by Stiller's trademark manic energy just crashing up against Del Toro's absolute stoicism. Yeah. You basically play the drama completely straight on Del Toro's end, and the comedy emerges from the absurdity of that contrast.
Right. So Stiller is the guy having a full-blown panic attack over, I don't know, who gets the bottom bunk.
Yeah.
And Del Toro is just the guy who stares at him unblinkingly until the panic attack burns itself out.
Which is a hilarious dynamic.
It is. But you really can't build a sustainable multi-season series with just two guys glaring at each other in a cell block.
No, eventually that runs out of steam.
Right, you need an accelerant. And in August 2026, Apple announced the casting of Amy Sedaris as a series regular.
Oh, and injecting Sedaris into that specific dynamic is such an inspired choice.
It really is.
I mean, just looking at her trajectory, you know, going from Second City Theater to Strangers with Candy.
Classic.
And BoJack Horseman, and even her recent work playing Peli Motto in The Mandalorian.
She was so funny in that.
Yeah, her entire comedic brand is built on this erratic, high-velocity absurdity.
Oh, she is the actual definition of chaotic energy. It's basically like putting a tightly wound clock, which is Stiller.
Right.
A brick wall, which is Del Toro, and a lit firecracker, Sedaris. Like you put them all into a locked room together.
Yes, because a comedic triangle requires varying speeds to function properly.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, Del Toro operates at this glacial, very intimidating pace. Stiller operates at a frantic, reactionary pace.
But constantly sweating.
Exactly. And then Sedaris introduces a completely unpredictable vector that just destabilizes whatever fragile ecosystem those other two manage to establish.
It sounds so stressful, but in the best way possible.
Oh, absolutely.
But you have this incredibly volatile mix of actors, right? Stoicism meeting neuroticism, colliding with pure chaos.
Yeah.
But actors, you know, they don't create that pacing in a vacuum. You need a director and a writing team who deeply understand the exact rhythm of a toxic environment.
Which brings us to the creative masterminds running the show, because this trio is just absurdly stacked.
It really is. Who do we have here?
Well, we are looking at three of the most influential architects of modern television satire. The co-showrunners are Mike Judge, who is obviously responsible for Silicon Valley, King of the Hill, Office Space, Idiocracy.
Just legendary stuff.
Yeah, and he's working alongside Steve Hely, who worked on Veep.
Oh, wow.
And Dave King from Parks and Recreation.
That is quite the lineup.
And Judge is also attached to direct the pilot, you know, which establishes the visual and tonal baseline for the entire series moving forward.
It's basically the comedy equivalent of the 1992 Dream Team.
It really is.
But what the sources point out that I found really interesting is that this isn't a newly assembled group of strangers trying to, you know, figure out each other's sensibilities.
Right. They aren't starting from scratch.
Exactly. They just ran the Adult Swim animated series Common Side Effects together. So they already know exactly how to operate a writer's room efficiently with each other.
And a pre-existing creative shorthand like that is invaluable when you're establishing a new world.
Oh, I bet. You save so much time.
Yeah, they don't have to waste half a season finding the show's voice or figuring out how to communicate.
Right.
However, the foundational concept didn't actually originate with them.
Right. This wasn't their baby initially.
No. The initial framework was pitched to Apple by Ben Silverman.
the propagating content guy.
Exactly, an executive producer at Propagate Content. And he is famously the guy who adapted The Office for American television.
Right, right.
So the conceptual hook he used to sell protective custody in the room was describing it as a hybrid of Hogan's Heroes and The Office.
Okay, see, I read that in the analysis document, and I hear that, but it really feels like a massive stretch by Ben Silverman just to, sell a script to executives.
How so?
Well, in The Office, your absolute worst-case scenario consequence is getting fired.
Right.
Or maybe, Jim puts your stapler in a mold of Jell-O.
A classic.
Right. But in a protective custody unit, even a minimum security one, your worst consequence is literally getting shanked in the shower.
Well, yes.
So are we really pretending those psychological stakes map one-to-one just to justify slapping a quote-unquote workplace comedy label on a prison show?
That's a fair question, but I think the translation isn't about physical danger. It's about psychological currency.
Okay, unpack that for me.
So when a disgraced financier enters that yard, his millions of dollars in offshore accounts are completely useless.
Right, they can't buy him a better mattress.
Exactly. Power suddenly derives from access to the communal phone or extra yard time or alliances with specific guards.
Okay, I see.
The satirical brilliance of the pitch lies in realizing that the behavioral psychology of a sociopathic CEO, who is navigating a hostile corporate takeover, it operates on the exact same neurological pathways as a white-collar criminal trying to secure a better job in the prison laundry.
Oh, wow. Okay, that actually makes perfect sense. So instead of fighting over, who left their tuna sandwich in the break room fridge and stunk up the office, they're fighting over contraband.
Yes.
But they're projecting the exact same level of petty, passive-aggressive energy.
Exactly. In a corporate environment, power is derived from arbitrary titles and who gets the corner office.
Right.
In this environment, it's derived from commissary goods. The pitch basically posits that the mechanisms of institutional survival are identical regardless of the setting.
Yeah, people are just people.
Right. It is a perfect laboratory for examining systemic failure and just, human pettiness.
That reframing makes so much sense. It basically takes the life or death stakes of a Hogan's Heroes setup and applies the soul-crushing bureaucratic drudgery of Dunder Mifflin.
Exactly.
And honestly, that leads directly into the strategic analysis document that was in our stack of sources.
Yes, the business side of this.
Because it looks at this entire creative setup strictly through the lens of business strategy. Because building a show around a prison isn't just a fun creative constraint, right?
No, not at all.
It is a massive financial maneuver designed to fix a very specific, very expensive problem in the streaming industry.
Yeah, we are officially entering the economics of the detention comedy.
I love that term.
Right. Platforms like Apple TV Plus are currently fighting this brutal, ongoing war against post-finale subscriber churn.
Right, where people watch the final episode of a season and immediately cancel their subscription.
Exactly. And to combat this, they've historically adopted a strategy of overwhelming spectacle. So financing shows like Foundation or Silo.
Both of which are great, but man, they look expensive.
At exorbitant costs. Astronomical budgets.
Right. They spend $200 million building these massive digital worlds. But the problem is, when you spend that much on production, your margins are just razor thin.
Yeah.
And worse, you have to wait 2 or even 3 years between seasons because the post-production and the VFX take forever.
Which just invites more churn.
Exactly. By the time season 2 comes out, everyone's forgotten what happened in season 1.
Right. And a prison setting drastically alters that cost-to-benefit ratio.
How so, exactly?
Well, by confining the narrative to a protective custody unit, you completely eliminate the need for global location shoots.
Okay, yeah. No flying the crew to Iceland.
Right. No massive lighting setup shutting down city streets, and no high-end visual effects to render entire alien planets.
It's just a wall.
Yes. You basically build a highly detailed soundstage.
Yeah.
A cell block, a cafeteria, maybe a recreation yard.
Yeah.
And the physical production footprint remains entirely static for the duration of the entire series.
It's essentially a multi-million-dollar bottle episode stretched over multiple seasons.
Exactly.
The budget flexibility that provides must be staggering for an executive.
Oh, it is. By heavily reducing those physical production costs, Apple can aggressively reallocate that capital.
Where do they put it?
They weaponize their cash flow to secure Academy Award-winning talent and elite showrunners.
Ah, I see.
They are essentially buying market share in the prestige comedy space by overpaying above-the-line talent with the funds they saved on set construction and CGI.
That is actually genius. And you can see that aggressive strategy reflected in the corporate architecture behind the show.
Absolutely.
It's less like a traditional television production and more like this massive corporate joint venture.
Right.
So you have Apple Studios operating basically as the bank and the global distributor.
Yes.
And they are partnered with Red Hour Films, which is Ben Stiller's production label.
Yeah.
And they've already proved they can blend character-driven drama and high-concept weirdness with Severance.
Which was a huge hit for them.
Massive. Then you have Propagate Content acting as almost like the assembly line manufacturing the format.
Right.
And 3 Arts Entertainment serving as the talent pipeline to get the best actors in the door.
The structure is perfectly designed to mitigate risk at every single level.
Totally.
And within that corporate structure, the production notes reveal a really interesting attachment. Nanette Burstein is listed as an executive producer.
Which is such a fascinating detail. For anyone who doesn't track documentary directors, Nanette Burstein directed The Kid Stays in the Picture.
A phenomenal documentary.
Yeah, and the Hely docuseries on Hulu. So my question is, why do you bring a renowned, hard-hitting documentary filmmaker into a heavily scripted, highly controlled Mike Judge comedy?
Well, her involvement strongly dictates the anticipated visual aesthetic of the show.
I mean, what?
A show about mundane institutional survival loses all of its impact if it looks like a brightly lit, multi-camera sitcom on network TV.
Oh, like if it looks like The Big Bang Theory, but in a prison. That would be awful.
It would completely undercut the premise. So Burstein's presence suggests a commitment to hyperrealism or, grounded documentary techniques.
It's like a true mockumentary.
Exactly. They are likely aiming for a visual tone that is stark and uncompromising, which actually forces the comedic writing to work infinitely harder to break through that built-in tension.
Wow. Okay, so a hyper-realistic, visually bleak prison mockumentary starring Ben Stiller and Benicio del Toro, directed by Mike Judge.
Yes.
My brain is melting a little bit trying to picture it, but I am entirely on board.
It's a wild combination.
It really is.
Yeah.
And looking at this from a macro level, this represents a pretty aggressive shift for Apple TV Plus as an overall brand, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. And analyzing the discussions on platforms like Reddit really reveals a clear audience awareness of this brand evolution.
Yeah, people notice.
For years, their comedy vertical was almost entirely defined by the Bill Lawrence aesthetic.
Right.
So we're talking about shows like Ted Lasso and Shrinking.
The warm blanket comedies.
Exactly.
Shows built entirely on radical empathy, people trying to be better, hugging it out.
Right. And while that was incredibly successful for them, relying solely on optimistic, heartfelt programming creates demographic vulnerabilities over time.
Because eventually people want something with some bite to it.
Exactly. The strategic analysis notes that Apple is actively courting edgier, darker workplace comedies now to capture that prestige demographic that typically gravitates toward HBO.
Right, the Succession crowd, the Veep crowd.
Yes. So retaining Ben Stiller within their ecosystem is a major priority for this new, cynical phase of their comedy portfolio.
Okay, so we cannot talk about Ben Stiller, Apple TV Plus, Yawn, and Reddit without addressing the massive elephant in the room.
I knew we were going to get here.
We have to. Yeah. Because when you look at the actual fan reactions to the initial announcement of protective custody, people are incredibly excited about the cast. They're pumped for Mike Judge.
Yeah, the reception was largely positive.
But there is one recurring joke completely dominating the conversation.
The ongoing hiatus of Severance.
The Severance delay. Season 1 of Severance was an absolute masterpiece of television.
It really was.
And it ended on one of the most stressful cliffhangers in recent memory. And the fans have been waiting. And waiting.
Patiently, for the most part.
Sort of. So when Apple proudly announces that Ben Stiller is starring in Protective Custody, and oh, by the way, he's also starring in another new Apple show called The Off Weeks with Jessica Chastain.
Yeah.
The fans jokingly rioted online.
Well, the optics of a creator taking on multiple starring roles while his flagship series remains mired in post-production, it certainly invites a specific type of audience commentary.
It really does.
Yeah.
The overriding sentiment across television is that Ben Stiller is doing literally everything in his power except finishing Severance Season 3.
Right.
The quotes we pulled from the threads are just hilarious. One user called it the GRRM method, directly comparing Stiller to George R.R. Martin, endlessly delaying the winds of winter.
Ouch. That's a harsh comparison in the sci-fi and fantasy community.
It's the ultimate insult. Another user confidently predicted that, at this production rate, Severance Season 4 will drop sometime in the year 2045.
Which, given the gaps, feels only slightly exaggerated.
Right. And my personal favorite, someone just dropped a quote from Mike Judge's own movie, Office Space, writing, "If you could go ahead and finish Season 3, that'd be great."
That is perfectly deployed.
It's so good. But, I mean, it highlights a real frustration.
It does. It is the natural byproduct of the binge model era, you
Yeah.
know? Audiences today just have very little patience for traditional production timelines, let alone delayed ones.
Right. They want it now.
However, our sources actually provide a factual counterbalance to all this online hyperbole.
Oh, really? Tell me there's good news.
There is. Stiller is officially on record promising that Season 3 is actively underway, and he has explicitly stated the production timeline will not suffer the same agonizing delays that plagued Season 2.
Okay, well, we will hold him to that.
Yeah.
Because my heart cannot take another 3-year gap.
I think Apple is very aware of that, too.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
But I want to move to what is honestly my absolute favorite part of this entire stack of research.
Oh, yes.
Because amidst all the high-level corporate maneuvering and the strategic brand evolution and the budget constraints, there was a spectacularly bizarre media mix-up during the initial reporting of this show.
The telepathic gorilla incident?
The telepathic gorilla. I couldn't believe my eyes when I read this. According to the strategic analysis document, when protective custody was first being announced to the trades in the summer of 2026, there was a massive journalistic short circuit. Early industry reporting actually combined the cast list of Apple's protective custody with a completely different, entirely unrelated series being developed over at HBO Max.
And this error, it serves as just a fascinating case study in how the sheer velocity of modern entertainment journalism frequently outpaces basic editorial oversight.
Oh, 100%.
Oh.
They just wanted to be first to press. So what was the other show that got tangled up in this?
So the other project is a DC Studios series ordered by James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it's titled The People v. Gorilla Grodd.
Which is just an incredible title.
Right. It is an 8-episode true crime mockumentary created by Tony Ascenda and Dan Perot.
Oh, the American Vandal guys.
Exactly. The team behind that brilliant Netflix
Dick
series.
Cicero was so smart.
Yeah, so they're bringing that same mockumentary energy to DC, and the show stars Skylar Gisondo, who is reprising his role as Jimmy Olsen,
Okay.
alongside Jimmy Tatro, who is voicing a telepathic gorilla who is literally on trial for murdering his father, the king of Gorilla City.
I genuinely love the television industry. Like, where else does a sentence like that even exist?
It's completely absurd.
It is. But okay, how on earth does a professional trade reporter mix up Ben Stiller in a grounded prison comedy with Jimmy Olsen and a talking ape?
Well, synthesizing the timelines and the genre descriptors kind of reveals the point of failure here.
Okay.
Both Protective Custody and The People v. Gorilla Grodd are high-profile, satirical, legal, and detention-based comedies.
Ah, okay. I see where this is going.
Right, and they were both officially announced and going through the casting process during the exact same window in the summer of 2026.
So the wires got crossed.
Exactly. A reporter who was clearly racing to break the news before a rival trade likely conflated two completely separate press releases or tip sheets that were just sitting next to each other in their inbox.
Resulting in actual published articles heavily implying that Benicio del Toro was preparing to star in a prestige Apple comedy alongside Jimmy Olsen and a telepathic gorilla.
Which, honestly, from a purely analytical standpoint, is a demographic crossover event that would likely perform exceedingly well.
I would watch every single episode of that show. I would binge it on day one.
I think a lot of people would.
It's just a beautiful reminder of the sheer absurdity of the media landscape. You know, you skim an email, you copy-paste the wrong paragraph in a rush to beat deadline to the punch, and suddenly Benicio del Toro is sharing a cell block with Gorilla Grodd.
It really provided a necessary moment of levity for the industry amidst, you know, a pretty relentless cycle of corporate consolidation announcements.
Oh, for sure. It was the laugh everyone needed that week.
Definitely.
So, bringing it all back to reality, in the actual non-gorilla show we are getting, when are we realistically going to see Protective Custody hit the platform?
Well, based on the development timelines and the projections outlined by sources like the Food & Critic, the series currently remains in active development.
Okay.
But factoring in the complex production schedules for the caliber of talent involved, you know, Stiller, Del Toro, Sedaris, Judge.
Right, getting all their schedules to align must be a nightmare.
Exactly. So industry consensus points to a premiere window in late 2027 or, more likely, early 2028.
So we have a little bit of a wait ahead of us, which frankly gives Ben Stiller plenty of time to finish Severance.
Exactly. No excuses now.
But as we wrap up today's discussion into the streaming economy and this specific show, what is the ultimate takeaway here? What is the lingering thought from analyzing all these sources?
You know, for me, the most compelling angle to ponder is the scalability of this model.
The bottle episode model.
Yes, the Hogan's Heroes meets the Office formula proves that highly restricted single-location environments are basically the future of low-risk, high-reward television for streamers.
Right, because it's so cheap to produce, but you can still pack it with stars.
Exactly. So the question becomes, if a minimum security prison works this flawlessly as a setting for a prestige comedy, what other hyper-specific microenvironments are ripe for this exact same economic and narrative treatment?
Oh, wow, that is such a great question. Like, what about a submarine? Yeah. You have extreme claustrophobia, right? Yeah. A very rigid military hierarchy, insanely high stress, and from a production standpoint, you only have to build one metal tube on a soundstage.
A submarine is an excellent candidate. The narrative pressure is literally built into the physical architecture of the vessel.
Or, oh, what about a jury deliberation room?
Oh, that's good.
Like 12 angry, highly petty people trapped together in one room with bad coffee and nowhere to go for weeks.
12 angry men, but as a workplace comedy.
Yes. Or, honestly, a space station airlock. 2 astronauts stuck in an airlock waiting for rescue, and they're just arguing over, like, HOA fees back on Earth.
All of those scenarios present the exact same economic advantages and psychological pressure cookers as a prison yard.
Yeah.
Observing where the industry applies this capital-efficient formula next will be highly instructive. I think we're going to see a lot of these pop up in the next few years.
I think you're absolutely right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the Greenlight Report podcast. We've got a question for the comments today. Which restricted setting do you think would make the best prestige workplace comedy? Let us know down in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to never miss a video. It really tells the YouTube algorithm that people like this content, and it'll push it out to more people. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, please follow us to never miss an episode. Just like on YouTube, it tells the platform's algorithm that people like the show and will push it out to more people. See you next time.